Yeah, let's hit it. This is another episode of Inside the Tax Hive. We're right here in our headquarters, and we've got a special guest today, Jordan, and his book and just his story, his journey. Jordan Stevenson, thanks for being with us, man. We're so grateful that you're here.
Appreciate it.
Honored to have you, Jordan. Jordan was inspired by 9/11, felt compelled to serve our country, and served as in the Navy for 7 years, right? And so we want to unpack and hear the story about what you've been through. HeadshotJordan.com.
There was only one shot.
There was one shot. Maybe you could show the side view. You can see right here. This is the one shot.
Scar.
The headshot right there.
The scar. So the scar is actually from the surgery, not from the bullet. The bullet, if you look really close, there's a scar right on my forehead, and that's the one shot headshot.
That's where it went in or out?
In. Hit me right in the front of the head and all the way through my helmet, through my head, and out through the back of my helmet.
So what was the caliber of bullet?
AK-47, 7.62.
All right, we got to hear the story, so we don't want you to hold back any of the details. Obviously, best-selling author, Unstoppable. Absolutely.
Never giving up.
Say that again.
The power of never giving up.
The tagline there.
So it's an honor. Thank you for your service, first of all, up front. And so
I love my job. It just ended a little early, and
so this is 2011. So walk us through that day, so we know all the details of what happened.
The day of my injury.
Yeah.
Sharon, Afghanistan is where I was, and it was the 8th day that I was in country, and we just gotten a briefing that morning of that op that night and what we were going to be doing. And the intel we got was that it would be a soft target, that we wouldn't find that much resistance. Unfortunately, that ended up not being the case. And I'm the bomb guy, so I'm getting all my explosives and stuff ready to go.
The bomb guys, do you wear the outfit that generally you see in the movies?
I would if that was the operation that we were doing, but since I was tactical and I was with Army Rangers, that's not what the mission set was.
And this was like how many tours? This wasn't like your first.
You've been in for 7 years.
This was actually my first. This is my first launch to Afghanistan.
Yeah, you were there for 8 days.
And it was my 8th day there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was going to be my 8th. It was my 8th day there, my 8th mission of that deployment. Because it's such a high rate of mission set that my deployment was only going to be 3 months. So I was only going to be there for a short period of time anyway.
What's like the standard time that you're there?
Like a year. Wow. It depends on on the missions. For me, it's usually like a year or 6 months, but since there was such a high rate, they only had us scheduled to be there for 3 months. So I get all my gear ready, and I'm ready, and we're sitting out on the tarmac waiting for the Chinook, which is the big dual prop helicopters that are just massive. And you can hear them coming in. Oh, yeah. It's supposed to be stealth. I don't know what is stealth about that, but it was the coldest I've ever been in my whole life. I've never felt colder. I live in Utah now, so it gets cold here, but it was like into your soul kind of cold. Like if hell is hot, I want to be there instead. Like,
was that due to temperature or due to nerves?
Negative 30 degrees and nerves, probably all of the above.
Wow.
The anticipation of the mission and the cold, kind of nothing could get your hands warm.
And everything else.
The hand warmers didn't work. They were garbage at that point. So we're waiting for that to get there, and we're all rehearsing and talking about what we're going to do in the mission, how it's going to go, A side, alpha side, bravo side, and kind of how things are going to go, rehearsing it before we get there so we know what we're going to do. And I had been tasked with going up the ladder to the road, to the wall, so that I can get eyes on inside of the compound that we were going to be assaulting. What we got briefed on was there were vehicles inside of the compound, and they wanted me to get eyes on these vehicles inside of the compound. Because as the bomb guy, if I notice is weighted really heavy to the rear end, I'm thinking there's a bomb in the back of that vehicle. So that as my team went in, that would detonate and then take my whole team out. They wanted me to get eyes on to prevent that from happening. So I have a junior private, because I was deployed with the Army. I'm a Navy bomb guy, but I was deployed with the Army Rangers, 75th Ranger Battalion. If I didn't mention that already, shout out to those guys. But I had this young private that was going to hold my ladder for me as I ascended the wall. And these are all farm fields. So it's really rough terrain as we land, and we're running and we're freezing, and it's frozen ground. So I'm just trying not to fall over with all my gear. With all my gear, I weighed well over 300 pounds.
And you're carrying that
And I'm carrying just me, my weapons, all the explosives I have in my backpack just in case I have to have breach or do any of that kind of stuff. It's my job to carry that stuff and have it.
Wow.
So I'm at a full sprint to this wall and to this compound, because we don't want anybody to see us. I'm sure they heard us come in because these things are screaming loud. We call it the sound of freedom, our sound of freedom.
That's right.
And then as we're hitting this wall, and my privates got the ladder up, and I remember like my hands being so numb climbing up this thing. And I remember getting up to the crest of the wall, about 30, 25 plus feet up. So pretty high. 15 feet is a fatal height to fall from, and I'm 300 pounds at 29, 30 feet up. And I get my weapon trained downrange inside the compound. And with my night vision, I'm looking at all the vehicles, and I remember radioing to my team. Last thing I remember was radioing to my team that the vehicles looked clear. Like none of the vehicles made me suspect any VBIDs, which is a vehicle-borne ID. Nothing made me suspect that there were any IDs there for my guys to get hurt in. So that's the last thing I remember. It was at that time that the enemy came out with his wife as a shield in front of him and opened fire on me with an AK-47 7.62 round, striking me in the left side of my forehead, through my helmet, all the way through my head, and out through the back of my helmet. Clean shot all the way through. And then I was able to, from what I was told, because again, I don't remember. So every time I tell this story, it's secondhand from me too.
Oh, wow.
So this is what they told me happened.
Yeah, these are all.
I put 30 rounds back down range after I got shot,
Holy.
putting the target down so that there's no longer a threat. And then my team, at that point, we're hot now, so everyone's able to open fire. But I got 30 rounds put back down range before, and then once the adrenaline wore off and I fell off the wall, my team realized that I was hurt and wounded.
You fell from the top of the ladder?
I fell from the top of the ladder.
So 25 feet. 30
About
feet.
30 feet, yeah, 30 feet.
Wow.
Which again, like I said, 15 feet is a fatal height to fall from, and I doubled the height.
Was the bag and equipment and all of that? I mean, it obviously maybe didn't feel good, but did they tell you how you landed? Did you land like on your back? You landed?
They said it was as graceful of a fall as I could have had. I didn't break a single bone falling from that height.
Wow.
With all my gear, weapon.
Was it kind of down the ladder?
No, they said I free followed. I kind of sloped down the wall. I fell along the wall.
Oh, scraped the wall.
I scraped the wall on my way down. That's what they told me happened. I don't remember. But once my medic got to me, I was telling them my head hurt. They saw the blood all over my face and all over my uniform. The original message that my family got from home before they found out what really happened to me was that Jordan got shot in the neck. Because the original message was that I got shot in the neck because I was so covered in blood.
Yeah.
They thought it had to be my neck. And then finally I was telling the medic, like, my head's killing me. I think it's my head. And he undid my helmet and realized that my head was practically blown off and blown open. And so immediately got his care on me and started working on me.
So walk us through what happened from there.
I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for them getting the gauze on me, and I'm fighting them the whole time. I'm pulling the gauze out. I want to go back and fight. My adrenaline's still raging for it. Yeah, let's go. I'm ready to fight. But they got me on the gurney and carrying me through the rough terrain out of this little quarry kind of thing that I had fallen into. And because it happened so fast, and it was right when we got to the wall and I was up there, that our helicopters that dropped us off hadn't quite left the area yet. So one of the helicopters came back and was coming into land in the same area they dropped us off, but we hadn't cleared that area yet. So they had to call them off, and we had to clear a new landing zone for them to come and get me. So that took a little bit more time, but between getting shot and getting off the ground was probably 10, 15, 20 minutes. I was off the ground and getting taken care of. The only downside was that was a transportation helicopter and there was no medical stuff on board, so my medic was kind of on his own, doing his own thing.
Field medic work.
Off his back, really putting all of his training to work.
And it was one guy?
One guy.
Team.
Robert Moreno.
One dude.
One dude.
You keep in touch with him?
Oh yeah, I've gone hunting with him since.
It's a brother.
He met my whole family. We went to Disneyland together with my family and his. It was
Shout out to that guy.
Yeah.
And without his ability at that point, you would have lost your life.
Yeah, and he had our superiors telling him to stay on the ground at the mission. But on his prior deployment, he lost the guy that was injured just like I was. And so he told them no, and he was going to stay with me. So thanks to him standing up to our leadership, he stayed with me and kept me alive and kept me here.
So obviously this is secondhand. You don't know. This is what you've been told at this point.
Right.
And then you're taken in. You're flown in. Walk us through that next step.
I get to the base. I can't remember what base it was that we landed at where the medical team met them with me. But they get there and they drop the ramp and the whole medical team is waiting for me to off ramp. So my medic is there with me, Robert Moreno. He stays with me the whole way into surgery, into the operating room, never letting go of my head because he's holding the bleed in my brain so I don't bleed out. Just to try and slow down so I don't bleed out.
Basically open cavity from here to here.
Yeah, like as big as my hand. Was wide open.
Blew it up.
Just blew my head wide open.
Jeez.
So there's brain matter all over his hands, and he's stopping this bleed. And again, I'm pulling out the gauze, and he's staying with me. He said it was annoying at first, but then it became almost a sign that I'm still there. Every time I would reach up, he's like, he's still here.
You were functioning.
Because I would respond, my name, where I was from, and all those kind of things that they ask you when you're hurt like that. Tell us your name, Jordan, are you here? Can you squeeze my hand? I would squeeze his hand. But then every time I would pull it out, he knew that he didn't have to ask me because I'm still there. I'm still fighting. He got to the point where I'm in the operating room and they have to pull him away from me so that they could start operating on me because he was so locked in with me that he wasn't gonna let go of me until they had to physically remove him from me.
That says a lot about him.
Oh, that says a lot about him and the kind of men that I got to work with for a living.
Yeah. When did the kind of light come back on where you were conscious, able to...
How long was surgery also?
Yeah.
I don't remember surgery or any of that. I went from Afghanistan to Longstrom, Germany to Bethesda, Maryland at the National Naval Hospital. And I woke up 2 months later in early February.
So the last thing you remember is radioing
my team.
I see nothing wrong. To then you wake up 2 months later
In a hospital.
And you're in a hospital,
Maryland.
and you're probably asking.
So I've done some scary things in my life. Jumped out of planes. I've dove 300 feet underwater. I've done some pretty cool
Done
things.
a lot of racing.
I've done a lot of cool things in my life and scary things in my life. The scariest moment of my life was waking up from that coma with being trached. I had tubes coming out of everywhere. And I'm in a dark room by myself. I don't know where I am. Last thing I remember is being in a gunfight.
Oh my gosh.
In country in Afghanistan. I'm alone in a room by myself. And
You don't know who caught you, captured you.
nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know where. If they caught me, am I dead? Is this what hell looks like? Because I don't see anything.
Yeah.
I'm alone. I can't talk because I'm trached. So I can't speak either. I can't call for help.
And are you in any pain, or is it just you?
If I was in pain, I don't remember because
the shock.
The shock is so intense that I just remember being so afraid of where I am and what's happening to me. And the biggest thing was when I tried to sit up and I couldn't, because what I didn't know at the time was that the left side of your brain controls the right side of your body. The bullet had paralyzed my right arm and my right leg. So when I went to sit up, I couldn't move. I couldn't sit up. So that was like, I'm paralyzed, and I didn't know what was happening, and it was just frightening. That I was a D1 collegiate athlete, special forces in the Navy, deploying with Army Rangers, doing some of the cool stuff that I've ever dreamt I would ever be able to do. And now I'm in a room and I can't move. I'm paralyzed.
It was an absolute miracle that you even open your eyes.
Exactly. My family was told that if Jordan wakes up, because they were prepping my family ahead of time when I was still in Germany, that if Jordan wakes up, more than likely he's not gonna be able to speak ever again, and he'll never walk again. Wow. Jordan will never be the same again, is what my family was told. And I'm waking up in the hospital by myself, and I'm sure the nurses saw my heart rate start to spike and then jump, and that's when they came in to calm me down. At every VA hospital, there's what's called the Fisher House, which is where families of veterans that are being treated get to stay. So my family was staying at the Fisher House in Bethesda, Maryland, and they got the phone call, I think like 3, 4 in the morning. Jordan woke up.
Yeah.
We need you guys to come in and talk to him. And I remember my family coming in and calling me down, and that you're okay, you got shot, and kind of talking me through what happened. But I will never forget the doctor telling me the same prognosis he told my family. Well, I still can't speak yet, or haven't spoken yet, him telling me, you may never be able to speak again like you used to, and you're never gonna walk again. Like again, I said I did all those things, and I have this guy telling me that I'm never gonna get to do the things that I enjoyed and loved anymore. To my family's relief, my first word speaking after my injuries was that he can get the F out of my room.
Yeah. Love that.
Which I guess I don't want my kids to swear, But to my family, that was a relief that, okay, things are still bad, but he's still there. It's still the Jordan we remember.
So what was the time lapse from him telling you that to when you responded and what you said?
In my head, it was really quick. It might have been a really long time, but for me, it was like on the spot, like me being like really quick-witted but
Now, you were married at the time, right? You're married. So this was your wife?
this is my first
Did you have
wife
any
with
children?
my 2-year-old. I had a 2-year-old son, but he wasn't there.
Got it.
He was still in California with her family. They didn't want him to see me in that shape, which I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah. And your parents were there.
My parents, my ex-wife, my sister, and some of my immediate family were there.
Wow.
I need a little rewind though, because D1 athlete.
It is a lot to digest, and it's hard trying to tell that story because there's so much involved in that story that I can't cover in a full sitting.
It's quite a journey to go. D1 athlete, Navy. Now you're with Army Rangers.
Navy Special Forces.
Navy.
You put
Which was the bomb guy.
Yeah. And the bomb guy.
Yeah.
We are the best kept secret in the Navy. We're called EOD.
Okay.
Explosive Ordnance Disposal.
EOD.
I went through SEAL training and BUDS. This is another rewind, I guess, to that. I made it to 3 Hell Weeks. My first Hell Week, I got pneumonia and SIPE. I passed out during a run because I had too much fluid built up in my lungs. My appendix burst and I tore my ACL. So it was just like this snowball through SEAL training. And then because I kept a good reputation myself, they recommended that I go to EOD, which is Explosive Ordnance Disposal, because I would stay in the Special Forces community.
I'm guessing most guys quit before.
Yeah, before they get to that point.
So it's like,
I kept having my appendix, my pneumonia, and I kept pushing. I never quit, and I stayed in it.
yeah.
Well, that's the book, right?
Yeah, a lot of it's in the book. I talk all about that in my book.
Unstoppable right there.
What's that?
What sport?
In high school, I played football, I wrestled, and I ran track. In California, track and field is pretty big.
Yeah.
I coach in Utah now, track and field, but in California, it's a culture.
Yeah.
And I made it to state all 4 years of high school in California,
Which events did you run?
the 300 hurdles and the 4x4 relays.
Oh, so you were no joke, man. You're quit.
I was a quick little white boy, for sure.
That's why they had you as the runner.
Right.
That
So
ladder, right?
I anchored my relay teams, and I went all 4 years to
Plus, you could handle 300 pounds in your
a lot of gear.
pack and the gear.
We were all meathead dummies like that, knuckle draggers that would run through the fire to do it.
How much of your athletic background, your discipline and pushing through pain in athletics, has that impacted you post you're waking up now and you're like got this long recovery process? Is there a direct correlation there? Like, did you have to dig deep into the coffers of your experience, or was it like something completely that you had to kind of rekindle and just create from new?
I think it's always been a part of me. My personality just kind of shows up. But that's what I did in high school. I got recruited to Sacramento State as a decathlete, which is 10 events.
Wow.
It's like the ultimate athlete.
Everything. So if you win the decathlon at the Olympics, you're considered the greatest athlete in the world.
Yeah. Right.
Pole vaulting was the single hardest thing I've ever done or tried. So I went from being a decathlete back to hurdling as a 400 hurdler, which is not a step down. 400 hurdles, in my opinion, is the hardest race in track and field.
I feel like the one thing that seemed to translate directly over when you came to, and you basically eliminate all the doubt and the naysayers of like someone telling you you're not going to do something and you can't do something.
You immediately said it.
It's like
I thrive off the
Someone telling
challenge.
you they can't.
Yeah, I thrive off the challenge.
Yeah.
So one of the big reasons I went into Special Forces to begin with was because everyone said it was impossible and how hard it was going to be and that I wouldn't be able to do it, which just made me want to do it even more.
So any other background before we go to which is really now at this point is the recovery time, and talk about unstoppable and not giving up. I mean, there's...
Well, before we go there, Sean,
okay.
let's also talk about the amputation. When did that happen? What happened there? How did that...
So I got that. I guess I would consider that part of my recovery still. So like I mentioned, the bullet paralyzed my right arm, my right leg. So I got shot in 2011. Did all the rehab, learned how to walk again. I was pretty active on my leg.
You forgot how to walk. You had to already retrain yourself how to walk.
So I learned how to walk twice as a child, and then once I was paralyzed, I was able to walk again on my leg. And one of the stories that's fun to tell, and my friends remember it, is everyone's calling me Superman because I stopped a bullet. I guess not technically, but I stopped a bullet. Our bullet didn't kill me, so everyone was calling me Superman. So the first time I was able to walk again, I was playing the Superman soundtrack when I walked into a dinner at the VA in Palo Alto, and so I learned how to walk again. But it was still pretty painful to walk on it because my toes curled. It's very much like a stroke. So I was still in a lot of pain in my leg. So I wanted to be more active than I already had elevated myself to being active again, and I wanted to do more. And a way to do that was I had friends, since I'm military, they don't have any legs. And they're all two prosthetics that were more active, doing more things than I could. So I was like, my foot's basically, I wear a brace and it's basically a prosthetic anyways because I'm gonna have mobility in my ankle. So after talking to doctors and medical staff and psychologists, make sure I wasn't just crazy coming up with these ideas that I want to do, I talked to them about cutting my leg off and giving me a prosthetic so I could be more active and get to the levels that I wanted to be at again. I wanted to snowboard again. I wanted to ride a bike again. There were things I wanted to do again that I couldn't do with the injuries that I had. So in January of 2016, January 5th, 2016, I cut my leg off at UCLA Medical Center.
Jeez.
What was that experience like, looking in the mirror, seeing a leg and deciding that leg's coming off? Like, what went into that, like, fully, and then waking up and it's gone?
I think for guys that where it happens and they're not prepared for it, it's probably harder. But for me, it was the opportunity to be active again and do things I want to do. So for me, it was exciting anticipation for what I was going to be able to do again. What I wasn't prepared for was the pain that was going to follow the amputation.
Was that phantom pain or?
Phantom pain is the most miserable experience of my life.
I wouldn't, yeah.
Oh,
So
I've heard about that before.
the pain of waking up with my head and the headaches that came with my TBI were painful, but the pain in my leg from getting amputated was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life and probably will ever feel in my life. The phantom pain, it's so confusing because I know there's nothing there, but I couldn't feel my toes before I cut it off. But after I cut it off, I could tell you it's my pinky toe.
Jeez.
It's my big toe. And I feel like they're being like pulled off or being put in fire.
God.
And it was just miserable. And normally when things hurt, you can put ice on it to make it feel better, but there's nothing there. So it's just this mental game of there's nothing there, it doesn't hurt.
How long did it last for?
3 months.
Jeez.
So it got to the point where I didn't sleep for maybe 3 weeks. And finally I went back down to UCLA with my wife, and I'm in the doctor's office, and my wife had never seen me cry up to this point. Once I got remarried, she'd never seen me cry, ever. And I'm in this doctor's office, and I just completely break down because the pain is too much for me. I can't do the pain anymore. It's just breaking me down. I can't be a good parent anymore. I didn't know what to do anymore. I couldn't take it anymore. I think I'm a pretty tough guy, and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't be tough. I couldn't tough it out anymore. And finally, they gave me morphine. I was only on like Percocets and that kind of stuff to begin with, and that wasn't enough. So finally they put me on morphine, and that first day I was on morphine, I've never slept better in my whole life. Then back at that hotel after they finally prescribed it to me, and my body was able to find some relief and get off of that. And so for the 3 months I was on 90 milligrams of morphine 3 times a day to keep that pain at bay. But then it came to a point where so many of my friends were addicts and couldn't get off the pain meds that I wanted to be a dad again. My daughter was just born, and so I wanted to be able to be an involved parent, but I couldn't while I'm all doped up on morphine and drugs. So I tried cold turkey, horrible mistake, full-blown withdrawal. Never been sick in my life. I remember waking up, not wanting to wake my wife up and my kids up, and just laying on the couch in the morning, sweating, throwing up, like it was body aches. It was just miserable. And finally my sister, who was a doctor, talked me into just all you have to do is just wean off it. You can get off it, and I'm proud of you for wanting to get off it, but you got to take care of yourself and incrementally come off, because if you just do that, then you're putting your life in danger doing that.
Right.
So I went from 90 milligrams of morphine 3 times a day to 10 milligrams once a day.
Wow.
Which in itself was a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
But now that was
Another battle.
of trying to fight my own subconscious and mind of I got to a point where I wanted more of it, and that's when I really was like, I got to get off this now, because I wanted more morphine than they were even giving me. So that scared me, and I didn't want to become like some of my friends who became so addicted that they lost their families and their lives over it.
It's powerful because, I mean, it was 2011 this happened, and then 2016
16.
is what. So 5 years later, you battled through that.
I'm going through it again, yeah.
You rehab it all, and then you go through that 5 years later.
What was harder?
And my leg got affected. What was harder?
Yeah.
I think the waking up in the hospital was the hardest because everything that I had known and pictured of myself was gone, and I had to kind of rediscover who I was going to be. So that was the hardest part, was losing my self-image of what I valued of in myself, and having to rediscover what I was going to value about myself now and what was going to be important in my life now. Rather than being that really tough, rough and tough guy that could protect my family and take care of things and could do, whatever athletic activity, I didn't have that guy anymore. So now who was I going to be? So that was probably the hardest part, was rediscovering who I was going to be, and that fear of being alone and not knowing who I was anymore.
The thing that put you on the ladder was kind of this, in defense of freedom and our country, and then in your recovery and everything else, it was like, hey, I want my freedom back. Like, I want my freedom to snowboard, to mountain bike, and then on the drug side, it's like, I want the freedom to be a dad. I want the freedom to, it's like, you're just like a fighter, man.
As much as I wanted to cycle and get back into lifting weights and doing those kind of activities again, I think the biggest motivator for me was being dad. I wanted to be dad again. I wanted to play with my kids. I wanted to be there for them. My dad was a big influence on me growing up, where every night it was, I'm proud to be your dad, I'm proud to be your son. And that was our I love yous to each other. So I wanted that kind of relationship with my son and my kids that I was having, that dad's here, I'm proud of my dad, and he's proud of me. It's similar thing that you've heard people say before, you don't realize what you have until it's gone.
Yeah.
And I relate to that more now than I think I ever did before. Is like such little things for me. Like, I remember being in the hospital and being able to stand up again on my own next to my bed was a huge accomplishment for me. Being able to transfer to a wheelchair and take myself to the bathroom was a huge accomplishment for me. Whereas most of us do that, X amount of times a day and don't even think twice about it. But for me, that was a huge win for me. So starting from ground zero again, and every little step I've made, I can look back now and appreciate those little steps so much more than I realized back then. And most of us go throughout our day and we forget the little steps. Like, as a business person, that first $1 you made was probably pretty huge. And now you're like, when's my next 100? X amount, you forget about those little steps and you don't appreciate those little dollars anymore.
Yeah, I think with the book too, Unstoppable, the power, like, this brings new meaning to the power of never giving up. And so, like, for a business owner that's watching, and it's there's a really tough market out there for a lot of business owners. What advice would you have? Like, how did you go through those dark times and still drive forward somehow and not give up?
I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to give up. Mm-hmm. When I was in the hospital, when I wanted to take the medication anyways, even as I knew I shouldn't have it, but I wanted it, and I wanted to just give up on fighting the urge to take it. I don't want to wake up and put my leg back on in the morning. The amount of times I want to quit because it's hard, but I don't. I lean into that. If the me back in the hospital that was able to stand up next to my bed could see the things I'm doing now, how stoked he would be to see what we're capable of doing now. So going into my entrepreneurship, as I make progress in those steps, the me now that's hopefully successful in the future can look back at that guy, and he can be so excited that as he's going through those hard times of growth, to be like, man, but if only I could just give myself the opportunity to get to that point and I don't quit now. Because if you quit, you rob yourself of the opportunity for achievement.
On the resilience side, or like pushing through challenges, what is it that you feel like is the source of your, I don't know if stubbornness is the right word for it, but where you're just like,
I have that stubbornness there, so that's right? Probably a part of my personality.
So are you stubborn? Are you competitive? Is it that you have, these meaningful relationships in your life that you value?
I think it's finding a balance and combination of all of the above, of finding a balance of being competitive, but at the same time being driven and compassionate and still being able to balance relationships with my family. Even though I really want to go get this thing done, I spend time with my family too.
Yeah.
Like this morning before I came here with you guys, we went up and went thrift shopping. Me and my wife did, and my kids up in Salt Lake City before I came down to stay with you guys. So I had this that I really wanted to do with you guys, but I still allowed myself that time with my family to come and do this. So it's a balance of finding, which is a forever task of trying to find a balance between getting things done and doing things that you need to do. I don't know if that's
No,
any answer, but
helpful.
So, dude, I mean, man, I just listened to your story. You really are unstoppable.
thank you.
I'm interested to know, based on everything you've already gone through, what are the things in business that you're doing right now that make you want to give up? Because compared to what you've been through, it should be like a walk in the park. Whatever, seriously.
Right.
Physical things I've always been gifted at, but business is hard because there are so many avenues, I guess, that people could take, whether it be marketing or taxes or
Taxes, sales.
Yeah. And there are so many avenues that you can target, but in business you need to be able to target them all at the same time. At least that's what I'm learning, at least figuring out how to.
It's the decathlon, right?
Exactly.
It's like I got 10 different disciplines that I've got to master.
Wearing a lot of hats.
In order to
Yeah.
make a profit.
And so I guess that's a hard part for me, is trying to find that kind of balance and where I put my effort and my energy into, because I have no idea. So I guess finding mentorship and people that can help me in that direction too. So a big thing for me through my recovery that I might not have touched on yet, but I want to, is, and it was hard for me, this is a big reason why I actually wrote my book too, is I remember being in the hospital trying to find examples of people who have been through what I did and how they recovered. And I couldn't find anybody that's been through what I have with my type of brain injury and my wounds. But I found other wounded vets who had done big things post injuries, and I kind of latched on to what they were doing and how they did it. And I reached out to Noah Galloway, Dancing with the Stars guy, lost his arm and his leg.
Okay.
And I reached out to him about how he got his book done, and then through his guidance, I got a hold of a publisher and wrote my book. So finding examples and mentorship has been something that I've been trying to focus on.
One of the ones I'd recommend is spending time with Tanner, and you guys do it, because what he does is he works with entrepreneurs and helps them take that powerful story you have and then get it out to the masses to create, your own funnel back, right? Absolutely. What inspired you about his story that you think would be good in the messaging?
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of wrote your story for yourself, right?
Right.
To kind of go and benefit that person who might literally have their head blown off, and you might be able to help them and be an example to them. But dude, you're inspiring me right now. And thank goodness I'm not, in a physical condition that requires that example, but I'm thinking, how can I take this story and apply it to business? How can I take this to become a better father? How can I show up and be more grateful? So I'm hearing your story. I'm thinking to myself, I mean, there's a lot of different people that could benefit from this. And it's just a matter of being able to apply that story to them in different use cases. That's where I'm going with it. But
yeah,
I mean,
it's a good read.
Just super powerful stuff. What regrets do you have? Like going through this process, like, do you regret getting up on that ladder? Do you regret?
No, not a bit of it, because, and I touched a little bit, I try to speak as much as I can. So that's why I appreciate you guys inviting me on. As much as I've been through with my injuries and the loss of the things that I used to be able to do and I can't anymore, I wouldn't change anything about it. I dreamt about doing what I did as a kid, playing war games with my best friends on my street as a little kid, jumping over people's fences in neighborhoods. That's what you could do back in the early 90s. And how these people just let me and all my friends run through their backyards. As a homeowner myself now, I'm like, I don't know if I'm okay with that, but they were. They let us be kids, and with our little fake Nerf guns, and we played for hours. And I did that as a kid, and then I grew up as my dream to be able to do that. And then, as you mentioned, 9/11 happened. And I had friends that joined the military after high school, and they went and deployed to Iraq, and they were in it, and some of them lost their lives, and that really struck me. I'm physically capable. I'm physically strong enough. I know I'm mentally strong enough to do it, and I felt like I needed to do my part as well. So I get to say I chased my dreams, and I'm proud of that. That a lot of people don't get to say they chased their dreams, and I chased my dreams, and I did it. I accomplished my dreams. I got to do it in real life. And
So you also have an attitude of gratitude, right? Where you think to yourself, I have buddies that died.
right.
And
I'm still here.
Also grateful for those moments you just mentioned by your bedside, that if that guy saw you today, right?
Well, there were guys I went to school with, and for EOD school, that are no longer with us. And you mentioned that I wrote the book for myself, and I did in a sense, but I talk about it in there. His name's Steve Cooper, and he was my chief. And November of 21, I got a phone call from one of my teammates that I was with in the military that Cooper himself. So that was when I was like, I need to speak more and be a voice for guys like him and guys like me that as low as things are, there's still better things to come. And if you give yourself that opportunity, like I mentioned earlier, if you quit, you take away the opportunity of achievement. I want to show guys that there's still that opportunity for great things in our lives to be a part of.
you already accomplished.
But no regrets
Yeah.
at all. I do it again. And a big thing that I take away from it, that you mentioned gratitude, I am grateful for it because I'm a better father, I'm a better husband, I'm a better friend, I'm a better dad, I'm a better son, I'm a better coworker, hopefully a better boss, and the list goes on and on because of my injuries. So as tragic as it is that I was wounded the way I was, it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me because I'm so much better for it.
It's remarkable.
Well,
To provide a lot of hope.
yeah. Well, you can see it's inspired us all, and everyone watching is going to be inspired because of your willingness to talk about some really hard things and be vulnerable with us. And I think everyone watching this, and including us three and Jake over here, we're all inspired by your story, and we want to thank you for your service, and you're a real hero. So, honor to have you on the show.